But you kind of summed it up big. I mean, iconic, you can use lots of different words, I guess, to describe the next, well, 6 weeks, five test matches, based upon all the historical evidence of India in India, India in England. I think we're set for well, it should just be fantastic viewing. I mean, clearly, people have their opinions on who might win and who might lose or whatever's going to happen. But I think above that, it's going to be great entertainment. Well, probably the most important thing is what happened in Northampton. I'm a huge fan of KL Rahul, and not only a huge fan of KL Rahul, but also a fan of him opening the batting. I think in all formats, I think his best position is right at the top of the order, whether that's Test match cricket, T20 cricket. Um, I see and I understand that he's been used in different roles along the way, but yeah, his experience of opening the batting in Test match cricket in England, for me, him scoring runs is so crucial. I would definitely open batting with him in the Test match series. So him scoring runs, getting his confidence back up at the top of the order, I think is absolutely crucial for them. Um, I mean, it looks a little bit more because of the retirements of Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. You just feel, obviously, now in that top five, top six, there's just a little bit more opportunity, perhaps, for players to stake their claim in warm-up games, in kind of games like the India A matches. So they do have a great amount of relevance. Karen Nair's clearly taken a chance to impress. Um, Jaiswal has been a little short of his best form, if I'm honest. If I was an Indian player, Indian selector, Indian fan, Indian follower, I would want to see him with a little bit more form, ideally. But does that mean that I'm not going to pick him at the top of the order? No, I would definitely play him to open with KL Rahul. So for me, Sai Sudarshan, although he hasn't, I don't think he's quite yet played in the warm-up games, but for me, he slots in at number 3, Shubman Gill number 4, and then you go from there. So, bowling wise, yeah, interesting. I think from the bowling perspective, if I'm honest, it's going to be a little bit about where they go with the all-rounder, which option they take there, Nitish or Shardul potentially, or whether they actually go with 4 out-and-out seamers with Jadeja as spinner. So, and then perhaps later on in the conversation, I might add my thoughts on Kuldeep because I think he's going to play a huge role. So, yeah, I mean, there have been some important things going on. I think India have got a pretty good idea about what their frontline side will be, bar 1 or 2 of those perhaps nuances that I've just talked about. No, I think India's made the right choice in Gill. Absolutely. I think that's a pretty wise decision. I would back that 100%. I think he's a shrewd cricketer. I think he understands the game very well. The question mark, I suppose, with a decision like that would be, and maybe that's what you're alluding to, might be a little bit more with reference to his own form and how he's going to cope with the captaincy, based upon him being, one of, if not the best player in the side. And that is always something I think selectors and management going with sort of slight nervousness about how that's going to play out, because we don't really know until you're in that position how that's all going to play out. But I think based upon everything else but that, I think it's a good decision. Well, when I've been out in India, I always highlight the same thing, really. I mean, sometimes with Shubman, more so when you're sort of a little lacking in confidence and sort of striving for things a little bit for your own form, sometimes that front leg just pushes across a little bit too much, and therefore the rotation of the body and accessing the ball and playing around that front pad. But of late, I haven't seen that quite so much, if I'm brutally honest. Certainly in the IPL, when I was working on that, I wasn't seeing that as much. And that is, that becomes more, it's important, but it becomes more important when you've got a left armer coming over the wicket and swinging it back into the pads. So I think that's something that he will probably be always aware of, and constantly, as every batter has the little things that they need to keep on top of. That might just be one thing. I mean, that line outside off stump is, again, will be the challenge for all these top order players, and particularly in England, because when you go to some of the Southern Hemisphere venues, Australia, South Africa, as a top order player, you can play the ball on length. You can play that line, that top of off stump, just outside line on length. You can leave on length. In England, it's not very simple to do that. It's quite tricky to do that because there's not so much bounce. So that line just outside and on that off stump line, it is very, very tricky top order players, particularly as there's a little lateral movement, which you get in the UK a bit more so than perhaps other countries. So I think that will be the challenge. England will definitely look to challenge Shubman Gill in that area, like all the top order players will be challenged. Yeah, I mean, I think the danger is we do read too much into dismissals, and I mean, Woakes plays in the Test match, so maybe there are little psychological chips along the way that you can gain from a practice match. Chris Woakes has played a whole lot of international Test match cricket. Jaiswal the same. These guys shouldn't be judged on one performance, one dismissal. Will it have lodged in the mind of Chris Woakes? Yes. Absolutely. Will it be something that he carries into the Test match if Jaiswal and Woakes play? Yes. Does it have a huge amount of relevance? No. So I think England will have a huge, massively high regard for Jaiswal because of what he's done in the past. Will they be slightly happier to bowl to him in English conditions as opposed to Indian? Absolutely. Will they feel he might be a bit vulnerable against the new ball? Absolutely. So that's where we're at, and that's the beauty of international Test match cricket and travelling around the world and playing in different conditions. Because Jaiswal now will be challenging himself upon conquering English conditions like he's conquered conditions around the world. I don't know where I'm at with that. If I'm really honest, that's where I'm constantly thinking about that. Because for me, I'm going to be brutally honest here. I think Shreyas Iyer should be here. I think Shreyas Iyer should be playing. He's not, and that's the decision the selectors make, and we respect that. So I'm kind of looking at Sai Sudarshan to go 3 maybe, and then Shubman to go 4, maybe Karen Nair 5, Rishabh 6, Jadeja 7. I'm toying around with that. That's where I'm a little uncertain. But it would be something like that. I mean, I'm a huge fan again of Sai Sudarshan. I've seen him develop a little bit over the last couple of years. I know he's come to England, played in Surrey. And also, like, just reading up on the backstories of people like Sai Sudarshan, he's a guy who's, the Duke's ball, used back here in the UK. He's taken the Duke's ball back, or balls back to India, practice with them. He's someone that's trying to not leave a stone unturned. He's someone who's trying to give himself every chance of being successful in different conditions. And I love that sort of stuff. And I hope that sort of stuff is rewarded with success, because that's just doing the next level stuff, the next layer, where it's easy not to do that and just hope that you have a good day and hope it all goes well. But I love it. I love stories like that, and I think he's a very, very good player. I think he plays late, and you'll hear that a lot during this series. Players that play the ball underneath their eye line, by the front pad, not get out in front of you, follow the ball a little bit, play the early line, don't follow the line as it moves laterally. All those sort of things which are key to being successful in English conditions with the bat in hand. I see Sai Sudarshan has the resources to be able to do that. Now, whether he does that, well, time will tell. It's always going to be difficult when you're kind of making your way in Test match cricket for the first time. But I think he's got the ability and the resources to be able to be very successful. Yeah, but that's where I'm going with this. I'm still obviously these discussions are very difficult because they're conditions based, and we don't know what the pitches are like. We don't know how conditions will be. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a snapshot. I mean, we're a few days, a week or so, 2 weeks away from that first game. What are we? 9 days, 8 days, something like that. A week and a half. And the weather, by the way, in the UK is pretty good at the moment, and it's set fair for a little while, and it's going to be quite hot. Now, those sort of things just have a little bit of relevance in how things might look in Headingley on June the 20th. So, there's also this, in my view, and it's just my view, there's a bit of a myth about Headingley, sort of green seaming pitch, does all sorts, very difficult for batters. I can tell you, I played, I scored a Test match 100 at Headingley. I've some of my best innings and most fond memories of batting have come at Headingley. It's not always a green seamer that does everything. It can be a very good batting wicket flat, depending on the weather conditions in the lead up, and of course, whether the groundsman leaves a bit of grass on it. But essentially, we've got a good wicket here, and based on that, I think your bowling attacks are going to be absolutely crucial. Last time India were over here, that bowling attack was phenomenal. And my view is, if India are going to win this Test match series, the focus for me is a little bit more on the ball than the bat. Are India going to be able to get 20 wickets, and how are they going to do that? and what's their bowling lineup going to be to do that? For me, I want to play Kuldeep Yadav as much as possible, and that's where I'm going to with these conditions based. If there's a little bit of turn in the pitch, or if they feel that by day 3, 4, 5 there's going to be turn, for me Kuldeep plays. I think England. This is again just my view. I think England will least want to face Kuldeep. That obviously Bumrah is separate to that discussion because he's the very best in the world at the moment. But apart from Bumrah, England like to attack. England want to take the game on. England want to score quickly. England want to take, be brave, be bold. I don't think they're going to want to be so brave and bold. I think they'll find that harder against the likes of Kuldeep bowling in those middle overs. So for me, I would try and play Kuldeep. Now that of course, it affects the balance of the side that you're just talking about. So it might be they go in with two spinners, Jadeja and Kuldeep. I don't know. Maybe not in the first game. Maybe at Edgbaston where it turns. It definitely turns at Edgbaston. But my point is, you've got to be searching for wickets. So I wouldn't just play an all-rounder because it strengthens your batting. I really wouldn't be doing that if I was India. I would be going, my all-rounder has to be my best bowling option, and we have to be searching for wickets all the time. I quite like Arshdeep, by the way, because I think he has a point of difference, a little bit of left arm. I quite like that. But whatever decision India make, it has to be based, for me, it has to be based on attack, wickets, not lengthening the batting lineup, trying to stay in the contest for longer, mix and match a little bit with the balance of your side. Get your best bowlers and your most likely bowlers to get wickets and go for that. You've got a decision. I mean, you're obviously going to play Bumrah. I would suspect you play Siraj if he's fit and firing and ready to go. You could go 4 seamers and a spinner with Jadeja in there, or you could go 3 and your all-rounder and your spinner. If it becomes the all-rounder, I probably favour Shardul because I think he's more of a bowling all-rounder than Nitish. So again, I'm looking at bowling options here, and I certainly wouldn't discount. If you want to go 4 seamers, I wouldn't discount Arshdeep, as I say, because of that left arm option. I think he's got good bowling craft. I think he's a type of bowler who's used to, in T20 cricket, he's used to batters coming after him. He's used to absorbing pressure. He's used to finding a way. He's used to outthinking batters. Let's face it, England are going to come after him. England are going to be aggressive. And so you need a mindset that's going to tell you, I've got go-to balls that I can go to, work out how to bowl it. It's going to be a bit of a risk if you did that because the guy's starting out in Test match cricket. But I think there are a number of options. It's very difficult sitting here a week and a half out to start nailing your bowling unit because it will depend a little bit, certainly with this India side, on the conditions that they're faced with on the day of the game. Attack. Think wickets. Get a bowling unit that is not just going to stay in the game for a long time, but is going to be pushing England, is going to make them up, is going to ask questions of England. Your most attacking bowlers. Well, it's a good question. I mean, then you look at England's bowling lineup, and then you think to yourself, well, how different could that have looked had injuries apart? I mean, there's no Jofra Archer, there's no Mark Wood, there's no Gus Atkinson, there's no Ollie Stone. So what you're saying there in 4 bowlers is a heck of a lot of pace that's sitting in the rehab room at the moment, trying to get fit and ready to go for whatever might be ahead. So I think England will probably line up with something like Wokes, Josh Tongue, perhaps, Bryden Castle or Overton as an option, and then Ben Stokes. So all of a sudden, you're revving things back down to sort of more medium pace. Obviously, aggressive bowlers, Stokes and Cars and Overton, depending on which way I think there'll be I'm not sure Overton's 100% fit. I think they'll probably go with Cars anyway, but maybe Cars, Overton, probably Cars, and those other 3 that I mentioned, plus Bashir. So that attack looks slightly different to the one we mentioned with all those injuries. So I would suspect England will want just a good pitch. I mean, England's great strength is attacking cricket. They need a good pitch. What they don't want is, they're also very wary of, understandably, like the whole world is, of Jasprit Bumrah and his abilities to change games in an instant. They want good pitches, I would have thought. I'd be very surprised if they don't want good pitches. I don't think they'll want it to turn too much. That'll be something. They might leave some. Potentially, might want to leave grass on to. In the UK, sometimes we leave grass on. It just helps a little bit more pace. it helps them with a little more carry rather than necessarily so much lateral movement. I think they want good pitches so their batters can get on top of the game, dominate. I don't think they're going to want pitches that do a whole heap. That's my view. I think it's brought it closer, but I think it's still advantage England because then, of course, we can't get away from the fact that India's batting lineup is a little bit inexperienced now without the big two. But just on that, I also feel that the guys that will come in are super players. I mean, I think in time, this might be, they're just some of these guys will be starting out in Test match cricket, so expectation levels have got to be kept realistic. But I think down the line, some of the players that are going to come in now for Rohit and Virat are sensational players. I mean, these guys are going to serve India well, I think, for many years. So how they go in English conditions, some of them playing their first time, will be very challenging. But yeah, I've got England as favourites, absolutely. And I think it should be, as I say, that word entertainment. I think will be absolutely key. I think the key for India will be how incisive there are two bits for India. How incisive they can be with that new ball. When you go back to their last trip here, how good were they with their seamers, Hamid Shami? How good were they getting wickets in those Siraj, getting wickets in those early overs, knocking England back, trying to expose that middle order a little bit, get Joe Root in early. I mean, he's going to be the key for England as he always is. And then that's one thing. How incisive can they be with the new ball? And secondly, that's my point about KL Rahul. They have to be a lot of stability at the top of the order. Again, the same point. They did that pretty well last time they were here. Set a base, get a platform so that middle order can really thrive. You don't want to be two or three. These are all basic stuff that we talk about, but things that really matter. And top and bottom, right at the top of the order and at the bottom with the bowling. Get those two bits right, and India have got a chance, definitely, because they've got some real quality in their side. I guess it's not something that when you're as far from it as I am, whilst I follow the game, hugely and very closely in India, those sort of decisions are very personal ones and very difficult to predict, in my view, because having been in a situation where I've played international sport at highest level of Test match cricket, I also retired at a point where perhaps people might have thought it was a little earlier than I was going to. But what gets you is not the physical. Well, this is again just my view, and I don't know if this is the same with Virat and Rohit, but eventually it wears you down in kind of a nice way. I mean, it's a great privilege, it's a great honor, it's a great life, but eventually mentally, it's like I don't know how much more of the practice I can do. I don't know how much more of the preparation I can do. I don't know how much more I've got to give mentally. It's a mental kind of wearing sort of situation. And once you feel like that's the situation, for me, the best thing was just to walk away and say, well, I've really enjoyed it. I've had a great time. And now it's time. So all these things are very personal to where you are. If you feel like you've got more to give and you're not worn down and you still want to go out there and do more, then you carry on. And that's my point about predicting these things about Rohit and Virat. It's impossible because you don't know where they are with that. And to me, that's all important and crucial. So clearly from those decisions, both those guys have said, yeah, look, we've had a fantastic time. We've done all we possibly can. And we're now going to sit and watch others do it. And I totally respect that. I totally respect that. And it's now time for the young guys to come in and take their chance. I think there's enough depth. And I go back to what I just said. I think there's enough depth. And there's certainly the quality is there. There's no question about the quality. But the thing that I'm going back to my own playing days. The thing that you can't predict is just how these guys will settle into Test match cricket. I mean, it's a whole new game. It is the ultimate test. It's a physical test. It's a mental endurance test. It's a dealing with lots of different situations. It's very difficult to predict how very talented players will fit into those requirements. Now, looking at it from the outside and looking at the players and seeing them play the shorter format of the game, there's no reason. I see nothing. Naturally, we focus on the technical bits because the easy thing is you see a guy playing out there in the middle and you focus on where his bat lift is and his head and his legs and his feet and his release point as a bowler and his body and is he following through, all these sort of things that we love and talk about cricket. But actually, that's just a very small part of it. The success in Test match cricket is this bit here, is the mentality. How are you going to cope with it? How are you going to deal with lots of different situations that come out? It's not batting for 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. Now it's batting for 5 or 6 hours and then doing it again the next day. How's your mentality? Can you do that? Can you stop and start? Can you keep yourself fresh? All these things are separate just to Test match cricket. And therefore, it's very difficult to predict how these guys are going to go. But they have certainly got a huge amount of ability. If there was ever a time, I'll say this, if there was ever a time for Indian cricket to cope with losing Rohit and Virat, it's now. But again, I go back to Shreyas. I personally think Shreyas should be there. I think that would have helped this transition a little bit more. Selectors decided otherwise, but there's still plenty of ability there. There's still plenty of quality that can do it.